Hi guys, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. My name is Annalise and I make houseplant videos here on YouTube on my channel, Get Planty With It. So for the past week or so, I've been compiling a lot of plant chores that I need to do, but I just haven't gotten around to. So I thought, why not make a video out of it, do the chores with you guys. I know when I typically do plant chores, I put on other people doing plant chores in the background. It makes you feel like you're doing your things with somebody. So if you have any plant chores that you've been procrastinating on, get out your supplies. We're gonna do them today. So for my first plant chore for today, I'm gonna be repotting this MONSTERA ADANSONII. It is the wide form. As you can tell, the leaves are a little bit wider than the other type. So I potted this plant up pretty recently in, I think this is like a 4-inch terracotta pot, and I put this cute trellis on it, but I'm noticing that it's drying out way too quickly. I can see roots coming out of the top, so I think it definitely needs an up pot. So I'm gonna be putting it in this terracotta pot. This is significantly bigger, it's a 6-inch pot, but I don't have a 5-inch pot, so we're just gonna go for it. I think it'll be okay. I have a well-draining soil, so I'm not too worried. Okay, let's get this started. So I have my soil pre-mixed. I just keep it in this random bag I recycled. And it has a lot of different components in it to make sure that it's chunky enough. Now, these terracotta pots, I have actually a massive hole at the bottom. Like you can see, that's so big. I don't know why they make them that big. So usually if you just put soil straight into it, a lot of it will leak out the bottom. So I try to put a leca ball in there, and it kind of blocks up the hole a bit, but it still allows the plant to drain, but then soil won't be falling out all the time. So first I'm going to put a nice little layer of soil on the bottom. So I'm about halfway through the repotting process here. I totally did not realize that the camera could not see what I was doing. So I already have some soil in the pot and I'm just filling it up. The plant did transfer pretty easily. I kept it attached to the trellis, but it worked out fine. Okay, this guy is looking good to me. Much better in this pot, and this trellis won't be as it was kind of unstable before, so this trellis will definitely be more stable in this bigger pot. And there we go. She looks so cute. Now I can put her back in her home. I know it's a little bit far off, but this is where she lives. I have her on this trellis, and then my Scindapsus argyrius is also kind of wrapped around the trellis a little bit. So I'm hoping one day it'll become really full, climb up here, look really nice. Yeah, now just in a bigger, better pot. Okay, let's move on to the next plant chore for today. Now I went over the specific process that I do when transferring plants to leca in another video. I'll link it above. But I want to transfer this PHILODENDRON PLOWMANII to leca, but it's in soil, so I'm going to put it in water first so it can develop some water roots before I transfer it all the way over. This plant I am absolutely obsessed with. Look at that leaf. It's so massive, and the back has this beautiful veining. But I just think she'll do really well in leca. Plus it's a crawling plant and it's already kind of starting to come out of this pot, so I just thought if I'm already going to repot it, why not transfer it to leca, which is what I'm more comfortable with. So today we're gonna put it in water, but first I have to get all of the soil off the roots. I'm gonna lay out a trash bag here just to help with the cleanup afterwards. So most of the soil goes into this trash bag instead of on my counter, so I don't have to clean up as much afterwards. I'm excited to see how the roots are doing on this plant because I have not unpotted or repotted or checked them since I got the plant, which was in February. So it's been a while. I do see roots coming out the bottom, so I think it's gonna be a pretty well-rooted plant. Oh wow, so you can see it's pretty well rooted in here. Got a lot of roots. I'm gonna try to get a good amount of the soil out like this. Okay, I've gotten a lot of the soil out here, so I'm gonna take it over to the sink and try to get the rest off with some water. Okay, so we are back. It is not perfect, but I got a lot of the soil off, and since I'm putting it straight into water, it should be fine. Over the next week, more of the soil should come off the roots, and hopefully it starts to grow some nice water roots so it can transition to leca pretty easily. So I found this regular mason jar in my plant room, and I'm going to use this to put the plant in. So let me just go fill this with water and I'll be right back. So I have my water container and I'm just going to, ooh, this might be a little tight, but we're going to try to make it work. Just kind of get all these roots in there. Oh good, it worked. I just put too much water. That's fine, I will dump some out. Okay, that's better. So all the roots are submerged in the water and it's looking pretty good. So I'm gonna just leave this plant in this water for at least a week, maybe 2, just until I feel like I'm seeing some new root growth and I feel more comfortable transferring it to leca. But I shouldn't have any problems. Usually philodendron transfer really easily and do really well in water, so this should be good to go. Okay, we can set that to the side and move on to our next plant chore. So for my next plant chore, I'm going to be transferring my philodendron MAMEI into water. I talked about it during my June favorites video, and I actually noticed during that video that there are roots coming out of the bottom, as you can see there. So it's been living in sphagnum. It's ready to go into something more permanent, so I'm going to be putting it into leca. One interesting thing I did think, since I'm working with both of these plants today, is to show the difference between the MAMEI and the PLOWMANII. I know at least when I started collecting plants and first saw them, I didn't see the major differences between them, and I didn't really think I needed both. But now that I do have both, they're actually extremely different, and I just thought it'd be fun to show you in case you kind of felt the same way. So the MAMEI, it does have silver on the leaves, but the silver covers most of the leaf. Probably about 3/4 of the leaf is covered in silver, whereas the PLOWMANII, you can see it's a little bit more splotchy with the silver there. There's a lot of it, but it's not as full coverage as on the MAMEI. Also look at these petioles. They're super cool and wavy and kind of bright red. These do have a little bit of a wave to them. I mean, this plant's smaller, so it's a bit harder to see, but they're more green than this kind of bright red color. Another big difference is the back of the leaf. So the back of this leaf, as you can see, doesn't have any really prominent veining. It's just kind of a nice light green, whereas the back of the PLOWMANII leaf has a lot of really distinct kind of reddish veining. And then the other final difference I noticed is this plant is a crawler, meaning it crawls along the ground in the wild where it grows. And so you'll see the growth pattern, it keeps shooting out new growth kind of along the soil or leca or whatever medium you use. Whereas the MAMEI is not, it looks like it's a climber, so it just kind of grows straight up with new plants coming up out of the previous node. So that wasn't really a plant chore, but I just thought it'd be fun to talk a little bit about the differences between these two plants, because I know I was confused when I first saw them. So getting back to this, I'm gonna take this MAMEI out of the sphagnum, try to get as much sphagnum as I can off, and then transition it into a leca pot. Wow, so as you can see, it's pretty kind of root bound in here. There's tons and tons of roots on it all around the sphagnum. So I'm gonna try to be as gentle as I can when taking off the spag to keep as many roots alive as possible. Of course, it's inevitable that some roots will come off when you're doing this process, but it'll be okay. So one trick if you're having a really hard time to get the roots off is to actually soak the plant in water. So I'm gonna try to do that now because I am having trouble getting this spag off of the roots. So I've got a bowl of water here and I'm gonna try to put this into the water to see if that'll help kind of get some of the spag off. Already it's coming off way easier into the water, so it is working. Now ideally I would have transferred this plant before it got so many crazy roots in here, because that's making obviously this process way harder than it needs to be. But I just kind of forgot about it and wasn't keeping a huge eye on it, so I didn't think to do it until I noticed how many roots it had. Okay, this is taking forever, so I'm getting a little bit more forceful with it, and definitely, roots are definitely coming off, but I cannot spend all day doing this. I'll go crazy, so it is what it is, but it'll develop. It'll grow new roots in leca, so I'm really not too worried. Okay, I'm gonna run this under the faucet to see if I can get any of these final little pieces off. I have all my supplies ready. I have a self-watering pot here. I talked about these in both of the videos I did on leca, so these are what I use for most of my plants that are in leca. I have my leca here that is washed and clean, and then the plant. I didn't get every piece of sphagnum off, but I really did the best that I could. And it's normal for some roots to die during the transfer, so I'm sure it'll happen, but it's okay. Great. So now I'm gonna get my nutrient water, and since I'm just transferring it over, I'm gonna fill it pretty high up because I wanted to almost hit the roots. I found that that helps the best with the transition and decreases the amount of shock that the plant experiences. The plant is all transferred, so now I'm gonna add my nutrient water right over top. I like to add quite a bit after I first transfer, and then I'll just check how much is in there. I like to make sure it's touching where the roots would end. So I like to just a little more. Okay, I think that should be good. Okay, that is all done. Now that that is all done, I think I have just one more planter I'm gonna do. I wanna fertilize the Hoyas that are living in my greenhouse cabinet, so I'm gonna hop over there and take you along with me. So this is the fertilizer I use for all of my Hoyas. It's an orchid plant food mist. I found that it's really helped with some of my Hoyas that were really stagnant in growth. Just applying this every few days has made a big difference. So I just unlock it and then spritz them. Make sure to get kind of a lot of coverage. And look at all this new growth. My Matilda's new growth there. My Parasitica, that's a new leaf coming out, and there's a long tendril. Very exciting. Who else is in here? My Sigillatus and my Polynera. Okay, we have a couple more Hoyas. Here is my Curtisii right there, kind of trailing down awkwardly. And then my Croniana. Okay, I think, oh, I do have a cutting down here of a macrophylla. So I think that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for coming along with me while I did my plant chores. We got a lot done. I'm feeling really accomplished. So that's all for now. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. Bye.